Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Priya Goyal, Assistant Professor of Zoology in Deen Dayal Upadhyaya College, University of Delhi. Here we will be discussing the module Immune Responses Against Parasitic Infections. This chapter will help you to have an understanding of the common infectious diseases affecting individuals around the world, the host innate defenses against infectious agents, system of adaptive immune response of the body in case of a parasite attack, role of specific T cell population in the type of immune response, immunity against protozoan parasites, immune response against helminthic worms, and the mechanism of establishment of a parasite inside a host against the latter's immune forces. Students, our immune system is the sum total of all the strategies that have evolved to protect our body against parasites or the altered self cells. Once a parasite is recognized, the immune system recruits a dynamic network of various kinds of cells and molecules to mount an appropriate response called an effector response to eliminate or neutralize the organism. The body resists an invading parasite with full force. Subsequent exposure to the same parasite generates a quicker and higher level memory response to eliminate the parasite and prevent infection. However, in some cases the immune response may be weak or the parasite is able to overcome host resistive forces and establish itself inside the host. Thus, the establishment of a parasite depends on the outcome of the defensive forces employed by the host against the parasite and the evasive strategies of the parasite. So, this module presents a broad overview of the immunological aspects of parasite invasion in a simple yet comprehensive manner. The first half highlights the role of three-tier defense system of our body that works against a parasite attack. Both non-specific and specific responses are explained, focusing on how the protozoan parasites are countered and how helminthic worms are expelled out. The second half discusses the strategies employed by the invading parasites to avert the host immune response. The term parasite is used to denote an organism that is dependent on another organism, that is the host, for its survival. Parasites may live in or on the body of their host and derive nourishment and habitat from it. The host in a host parasite interaction is a habitat for the parasites to colonize and has resources to be exploited. The parasite may infect an invertebrate or a vertebrate but is specific for its host. Parasites have a full range of symbiotic interactions with their animal hosts. Generally speaking, parasites include the unicellular protozoa and the multicellular helminths. Protozoan parasites are microscopic protists that may grow within or outside the cells, often multiplying themselves within their host. They are responsible for causing several life-threatening diseases in humans like malaria, Chagas disease, African sleeping sickness, leishmaniasis, amoebiasis, and toxoplasmosis. Entamoeba histolytica causes amoebic dysentery or amoebiasis. Giardia intestinalis causes giardiasis or diarrhea. Plasmodium species lead to malaria. Helminths, commonly called worms, do not ordinarily multiply inside the host but remain extracellular, inhabiting the host tissues or bloodstream. Among the helminths, one category is of intestinal nematodes, the roundworms, among which Ascaris lumbricoides causes ascariasis. Among the tissue nematodes, Trichinella spiralis causes trichinolysis, Wuchereria bancrofti causes lymphatic filariasis. The trematode Schistosoma leads to schistosomiasis, Cystotaenia solium causes teniasis, and many more. Both protozoan and helminth parasites cause a large repertoire of infectious diseases. These infectious diseases remain a major cause of mortality and morbidity for millions of people across the world. The word pathogenicity. Pathogenicity may be a manifestation of the host-parasite interactions. As the parasite attacks the host, the two come into a close dynamic interaction. While the parasite tries to establish itself in or on the body of the host mounts a series of immune defensive actions against the parasite. The outcome of these two depend on the degree to which they are effective. The stronger wins over easily. Typically, the host defense mechanisms are divided into two major subdivisions: innate or non-specific immune system and adaptive or specific immune system. Innate defenses of the body are non-specific, that is, they respond to any type of parasites with similar response. These defense mechanisms provide first-hand protection against invasion and are present in the body even without any prior exposure to that pathogen. Innate defenses include anatomical and structural barriers, or the first line of defense of the host body. These are the external defense forces that act on the body's surface level, which include epithelial surface of the skin except at places of cut or abrasion, body secretions like tears, saliva, sweat, and secretions of the gastrointestinal and vaginal tracts, which flush out the invading parasites. Movement due to cilia and gut peristalsis, cough reflexes, mucous membranes lining the respiratory and gastrointestinal tract. Now, if a parasite breaches the external anatomical barriers and invades the host tissues or enters the bloodstream, then the internal innate defense body, that is, the second line of defense, comes into play. These include inflammation, phagocytosis, and complement activation. Now, first, inflammation. Before understanding the concept of inflammation, we must know some basic terms like parasite associated molecular patterns, which are distinct evolutionary conserved structures present on the parasite surface. These recognize and bind to pattern recognition receptors, a family of toll-like receptors, that is TLRs, on the host macrophages and dendritic cells. During inflammation, the PAM-PRR recognition activates the macrophages and dendritic cells to release cytokines. The cytokines harmonize the influx of inflammatory cells like phagocytes and neutrophils to the site of parasite infection. The effects include vasodilation, increased capillary permeability accompanied by swelling, pain, and redness in the infected areas. The amount of inflammation can be correlated with the extent of infection or parasite load in the host body. For example, Chagas disease caused by Trypanosoma cruzi is characterized by inflammation and lesions initially in the colon, which under chronic conditions spreads over to heart, kidney, and other organs. Similarly, rupture of infected RBCs in Plasmodium releases uric acid, which contributes to the massive inflammation, triggering the onset of cerebral malaria. Helminthic infections also cause local inflammation in the gut epithelium. Then comes the role of phagocytosis. The circulating polymorphonuclear neutrophils, monocytes, macrophages play a major role in recognizing and ingesting parasites for intracellular killing as part of the innate defense mechanism of the host body. This figure shows the process of phagocytosis by an activated phagocyte that has been recognized and internalized a parasite for removal from the body. Phagocytic cells engulf the parasites and respond by releasing granular enzymes that digest intracellular parasites. Phagocytes also display a mechanism of respiratory burst, that is, production of reactive nitrogen species such as nitric oxide by macrophages and reactive oxygen species such as hydrogen peroxide by neutrophils, which are crucial for the killing of intracellular parasites. However, these reactive species also cause some tissue damage, which ultimately leads to increased vascular permeability and organ injury. Then comes complement activation. This involves a cascade of complement proteins or factors that bring about the lysis of invading microorganisms. The complement factors are a family of membrane-associated glycoproteins or the proteolytic enzymes that play three major roles. Opsonization, in which C3b acts as the major opsonizing agent. Inflammation, that is, complement breakdown products act as chemoattractants, attracting macrophages and neutrophils. And the third, membrane lysis, where complement proteins form a membrane attack complex that ruptures the parasite cell membrane and enhances their phagocytic killing. Thus, When a pathogen enters the body, the host initially attempts to eliminate it by innate mechanisms. These mechanisms are immediate and they try to control the infection while the adaptive response is being developed. However, they neither provide long-lasting immunity nor memory. Also, if the pathogen has already previously infected the animal, the adaptive immunity operates immediately to expel the returning invader. In fact, an immune response including both innate and adaptive components is elicited by parasitic infections. Now we will discuss specific adaptive or acquired immune response towards parasitic infections. Two types of adaptive immune response follow a parasitic invasion: humoral and cell mediated. Professional antigen presenting cells, the macrophages, B lymphocytes and dendritic cells internalize the parasite, process and present their antigens on antigen presentation machinery, major histocompatibility complex or MHC class 2. Antigen MHC complex activates CD4 positive Th cells, which may further differentiate as Th1 or Th2 subtypes. These subtypes differ in their mechanism of action, cytokines produced and the kind of parasites they are effective against. However, a general proposition is that a Th1 mediated cellular response, that is CMI response, will target the intracellular parasites, that is the ones growing within the macrophages like Leishmania mastigotes, Trypanosoma cruzi, Toxoplasma gondii, while a Th2 cell mediated humoral or the antibody mediated immune response will be developed against extracellular parasites or stages living in blood, body fluids or gut. For example, the blood-borne sporozoite and merozoite stages of Plasmodium, Trypanosoma brucei or schistosome larva. Expulsion of helminth worms, those which are inhabiting the gut or tissues, requires a well-coordinated tricky operation of both humoral and CMI responses. Th1 cells produce a number of cytokines like interferon gamma, TNF beta, IL-2, IL-12. Interferon gamma has many effects including activation of macrophages with high production of nitrous oxide, that is NO, which is lethal to intracellular parasites. IL-2 stimulates the maturation of TC cells, B cells and enhances the cytotoxicity of NK cells. IL-12 induces the secretion of interferon gamma. Th2 cells bring about a strong humoral response. The production of IL-4 by natural killer cells, gamma delta cells, mast cells, basophils and eosinophils induce the self-differentiation of more Th cells into the Th2 subtype. Th2 cells also secrete interleukins IL-5, IL-6, IL-10 and IL-13. These cytokines help B cells to undergo class switching and produce IgE, IgG1 and IgA for activation of particular B cells to release antigen-specific antibodies. Antibodies act as opsonizing agents, promote phagocytosis and also mediate complement-mediated lysis of the infected cells. Some B cells also form memory cells. T cell mediated cytotoxicity is carried out by CD8 positive TC cells or through the secretion of cytokines by CD4 positive Th cells, which activate and mature B cells, natural killer cells and macrophages to destroy intracellular parasites. It is, however, interesting to note that Th1 and Th2 responses are antagonistic to each other. Interferon gamma negatively regulates Th2 response and IL-4 and IL-10 suppress Th1 response. This helps to maintain a state of homeostasis in the immune system, which is very essential. Now let us discuss the immunity against protozoan parasites. The chief executive powers of the immune response against intracellular protozoan parasites are the B cells with their antibodies, the T cells with their mediators cytokines, the parasite harboring macrophages, nitrogen oxide mediated killing and the natural killer or the NK cells. First we will discuss the role of cellular immunity. The polarization of Th cells towards Th1 type response is critical in immune response towards obligate intracellular protozoan parasites. As discussed in the section Genetic Determinants, the elimination of Leishmania major in resistant forms is significantly dependent on the development of Th1 cells, which release interferon gamma and activate macrophages to kill the intracellular amastigotes. However, Chagas disease caused by Trypanosoma cruzi cannot be completely controlled by Th1 response. Toxoplasma gondii ribonucleoproteins also trigger Th1 response in infected cells. In Plasmodium infections, both Th1 and Th2 type CD4 positive T cells are involved in protective immunity, though the relative contribution of these subset changes during the course of infection. Th1 cells act primarily during the acute phase and Th2 cells are predominant during the later phases of infection. CD8 plus T cells carry out killing of the intracellular stages of Plasmodium, viz. Sporozoites inside hepatocytes, merozoites inside RBCs, possibly by producing cytokines like interferon gamma and TNF alpha, which induce the production of nitric oxide inside these infected cells. Then comes the role of humoral immune response against protozoan infections. A strong humoral antibody response develops against the coat of variant surface glycoprotein or the VSG antigens of African trypanosomes. This eliminates most parasites by antibody opsonization, phagocytosis and complement mediated lysis. However, approximately 1% parasites having a variant VSG can survive and further multiply in the host blood, causing another round of parasitemia. Thus, successive waves of parasitemia keep recurring, involving 4 steps: development of humoral immunity, killing of existing strain, escape of variant parasites, and proliferation of new variant strain. In Plasmodium infection, the sporozoites remain in host bloodstream for only about 30 minutes before entering the hepatocytes. This time is insufficient to generate a good antibody response. Merozoites, when released by erythrocytes, also generate a humoral response before infecting fresh erythrocytes. Antibodies block the capacity of sporozoites and merozoites to invade new cells. Similarly, the tachyzoites of Toxoplasma gondii also trigger some Th2 mediated B cell response during their brief transit between the rupture of infected cells and infection of new cells. The importance of antibodies in immunity against protozoan parasites can be assessed from the fact that B cell deficient experimental mice could not eliminate Plasmodium, rather they developed a chronic relapsing infection with no memory response. Now let us discuss the role of natural killer cells. Activated natural killer or the NK cells primarily function in the lysis of protozoan infected cells and production of cytokines like interferon gamma and TNF alpha that stimulate other immune effector cells like macrophages. Cytokines produced by antigen presenting cells, that is IL-12, TNF alpha, IL-1 beta and IL-2 activate NK cells, while IL-10, TGF beta and to some extent IL-4 inhibit NK cell activity. Now the role of macrophages. Stimulated by interferon gamma produced by Th1 cells or NK cells, macrophages carry out intracellular killings of the engulfed parasites, viz. Sporozoid stages of Plasmodium, in liver macrophages or the Kupffer's cell, Trypanosoma cruzi, Leishmania, etc. Macrophages also destroy other infected cells like RBCs, which house the merozoid stages of Plasmodium by direct cytotoxicity. The role of nitric oxide. Infected macrophages are induced to increase the production of reactive nitrogen species, that is RNS, such as nitric oxide, NO. NO mediated killing has been seen effective against intracellular parasites like Leishmania, Toxoplasma gondii, etc. Interferon gamma and TNF alpha activate macrophages to generate nitric oxide, while TGF beta and IL-10 inhibit the production of nitric oxide radicals. Now we will discuss the immune response against helminths. Being large in size, helminths display a number of antigens, making themselves more antigenic. But their large physical size and cuticle covering may pose a challenge to the host immune system. These large complex worms attach firmly to the gut wall, feeding enormously on gut tissues or blood. Also, their thick cuticle cannot be penetrated by MAC assembly of complement system nor by the perforins or chemical factors released by natural killer cells. Thus, the host immune system has a challenging role to play, which it executes via a strong Th2 type response. So, coming to the humoral response against helminthic worms, the best initiator of host immune response is itself released by the worm. They are the excretory secretory or the ES proteins, which act as antigens. These excretory secretory proteins of the helminths cross the mucosal barrier of the gut lining to be captured by antigen presenting cells, particularly macrophages, lying within the Pierce patches or mesenteric lymph node paracortex and follicle. APCs process and present these antigens to T cells, which further differentiate as Th2 subtype. Stimulated Th2 cells produce cytokines like IL-4, IL-5, IL-9, IL-10 and IL-13, which help B cells to undergo class switching and produce antibodies like IgE, IgG and to some extent IgA. These antibodies probably cross over to the intestinal lumen to cause direct damage by binding to the parasite surface. Antibodies may inhibit enzymes released by the parasite, thereby preventing its ability to attach host cells and penetrate tissues. This figure shows Th2 type immune response that works in expulsion of worms infecting the gut. IgE binds to the Fc epsilon receptors on the surface of mast cells lining the intestine, causing mast cell degranulation, releasing free radicals, prostaglandins, proteolytic enzymes including mucosal mast cell protease, hydrolases and vasodilator histamine. An acute inflammatory response will pursue, characterized by infiltration of eosinophils to the site. This leads to type 1 hypersensitivity response characterized by eosinophilia, high IgE levels, edema, vascular dilation, probably evolved for detachment of the worm from the intestinal wall specifically. Further, the infiltrating T lymphocytes secrete cytokines IL-3 and IL-13, which cause proliferation and differentiation of intestinal goblet cells, discharging more mucus into the intestinal lumen. Mucus forms a dense coating around the detached worm and facilitate its expulsion from the intestine, aided by gut peristalsis induced by other mast cell mediators like IL-4. This phenomena is called the weep and sweep response of the intestine. This self-cure phenomenon of the host against a worm parasite has been studied against Trichinella spiralis, Schistosoma mansoni, Strongyloides circularis, Ascaris lumbricoides, Haemonchus contortus and Ascaris sum. It is of pertinent knowledge that the protective strategy employed for expulsion varies with the parasite. Different Th2 type cytokines may be produced. Acute phase of schistosomiasis, for example, features secretion of IL-4, IL-5 and IL-13. Raised levels of IgA have been found associated with Osteotagia circumcincta infection in sheep. Secreted IgM was essential for timely expulsion of Brugia filarial worm third stage larva L3. Also, the type of reactions acting against a parasite depends upon the location of the parasite within the host body. When the parasite has invaded through the intestinal wall and reached tissue spaces, a different process of expulsion is seen, termed frustrated phagocytosis, as seen for schistosomes. IgE and IgG antibodies produced in response to worm excretory secretory antigens coat the parasite and also begin to neutralize any ES antigens further produced by the parasite. These bound antibodies mediate direct recruitment of granulocytes, particularly eosinophils and mast cells, onto the parasite body wall through Fc mediator binding. These cells degranulate locally and pour their granule mediators onto the parasite coat, damaging the parasite body in an ADCC type manner. Then comes the role of cellular response against helminthic worms. Though Th2 type immune response is a universal feature of worm expulsion, but in some cases Th1 type response also offers some protection. CD8 positive T cells or CTLs may be activated against helminths deeply invading the intestinal mucosa or tissue. Infected animals may show production of cytokines characterized by Th1 response or delayed type hypersensitivity DTH, for example, in infection with Echinococcus granulosus, Nippostronchulus brasiliensis, Teniasis and Toxoplasma gondii. Thus, on the whole, I would like to mention that the activation of adaptive immune response not only helps the host getting rid of the infecting parasite, but provides memory response as well as avoids reinfection. Now students, we are done with the first part of the chapter. Now we will start with the second part of the chapter, that is evasion of host defenses by the parasite. The host and the parasite are in dynamic equilibrium, the outcome of which depends on the balance between the parasite virulence and host defenses. The parasites may successfully invade the host by overcoming the protective strategies employed by them, declaring the strategies not 100% effective. First, we will discuss avoidance of innate host defenses by the parasite. The parasites evade innate host strategies the following means. First is protective covering. Parasites may develop a protective covering of integument that may be resistant to antibodies and complement lysis, or protective cysts that render the parasite hypoallergenic. Example, in case of Entamoeba histolytica, which can survive extremes of gastric pH. Similarly, Toxoplasma gondii techuzoids transform themselves into a cyst form containing bradyzoids. In Onchocerca volvulus also, the parasites surround themselves with the fibrous capsule. The tough cuticle of adult roundworms also protects them from enzyme degradation. Next, the adoption of intracellular lifestyle is also helpful. Parasites may be sequestered in a particular anatomical position, so they may be difficult to access by the host. Getting into the host cells allows the protozoan parasites a way to escape host-specific immune defenses. Example, the hepatocyte and erythrocyte stages of Plasmodium and the macrophage stages of Leishmania species Trypanosoma cruzi, Toxoplasma gondii. Large size of helminth parasites is one of the primary reasons that many helminths remain impervious by the host immune attack. Ascaris hookworms, Trichuris, may measure several centimeters long, while tapeworms may exceed even 1 meter in length. Adding to that, fast mobility of the helminths allow them to escape inflammatory attack. Minimal exposure to host immune system can also be a parasite evasive strategy. Plasmodium falciparum protein PFEMP1 is known to be expressed on the surface of infected erythrocytes, leading to rosette formation. Parasites now spread to new cells with minimal exposure to host immune system. Another strategy is the avoidance of complement mediated damage, which can be done by producing anti-complement factors. For example, the larval cystodes produce anti-complement factors which protect their outer layers from lytic attack and prolong their survival. Similarly, resistance to MAC forming and inserting. For example, Leishmania develop a long extended surface lipophosphoglycan LPG that allows the initial binding of complement proteins but avoids MAC insertion into its membrane. Similarly, Cercaria of Schistosoma mansoni eject the bound C3 by shedding their glycocalyx. BSG proteins, as discussed earlier, of Trypanosoma cruzi also prevent assembly of the complement cascade. Taenia solium, the pig tapeworm, produces paramycin that protects the complement cascade formation. Another role is of the diversionary structures which are secreted by the parasites to decoy cytokine receptors. Parasites secrete decoy proteins, so complement binding is diverted from binding to the parasite. For example, Plasmodium sheds off its CS antigen. Trypanosoma brucei releases its surface antigens into solution to act as decoy proteins. Anionic sugars such as sialic acid present on parasite surface can bind the host regulatory protein factor H, thereby attenuating the activity of the alternative complement pathway. Trypanosoma cruzi covers itself with a complement regulatory protein of the host, degradation accelerator factor DAF, thereby escaping complement lysis. Next, how the parasites become resistant to phagocytosis. The outer coats of some parasites may prevent phagosome formation while entering the phagocytes. For example, the tachyzoids of Toxoplasma gondii may enter new cells through a parasite host cell membrane junction, thus preventing phagosome formation in the cell. This allows them to grow freely inside the cells with no effect of antibody or phagolysosomal enzymes. Some parasites prevent maturation of phagosomes, for example, the LPG repeating unit of Leishmania. Some may inhibit phagolysosome fusion, for example, Leishmania lysoni, Promastigotes and Toxoplasma gondii. The engulfed parasites may escape from the phagosomes of the phagocytes into the cytosol also. For example, as done by Trypanosoma cruzi and Toxoplasma gondii. The parasites may inhibit oxidative burst. For example, the LPG surface coat of Leishmania major acts as a scavenger of oxygen metabolites, thus protecting them from the oxidative burst. Fasciola species produce superoxide dismutase and the enzyme glutathione S transferase that neutralize the toxic superoxide radicals. Leishmania produce antioxidant enzymes and the inhibitors of lysosomal enzymes that prevent oxidative burst inside phagocytes. Trichinella spiralis is the only known intracellular helminth. It survives phagocytosis by transforming muscle cell into a specialized nerve cell which protects it and provides nutrients. Now, the mechanisms to escape adaptive host defenses used by the parasites. First is antigen masking. Parasites tend to acquire host antigens to cover their own surface antigens and are no longer intercepted as foreign in the host immune system. For example, Schistosoma mansoni mask their surface antigens by host blood group antigens, MHC molecules and antibodies. Filarial worms mask their cuticular antigens by host serum albumin. Another role is of antigen shedding. Shedding of large amount of surface antigens by parasites confuse the host immune system or deplete immune potential locally. For example, Plasmodium slows off its surface circumsporozoite protein. VSG antigens of Trypanosome are released in host fluids in soluble form. Similarly, there is a role of antigenic mimicry. Parasite surface components look like host, preventing the development of any specific immune response. For example, polysialic acid capsule of Neisseria meningitis. The VSG antigens of Trypanosome released into the host fluids also mimic host molecules. Now, the molecular mimicry is also effective. Parasites may disguise their outer surface to mimic the host molecules. For example, Schistosoma mansoni, Fasciola hepatica, Ascaris lumbricoides may synthesize or acquire human blood group like antigens from host on their surface. Filarial nematodes acquire host serum albumin on their cuticle. Parasites also employ the mechanism of host immunosuppression. The first hand and tricky immunosuppressive strategy is selective activation of a Th cell subset. Leishmania major, for example, induces IL-10 in susceptible host that trigger T regulatory cells to prevent complete clearance of the parasite from the host body. Trypanosoma cruzi, Toxoplasma gondii and Leishmania induce the expression of TGF-beta, which downregulates the production of IL-12, thus preventing Th1 response. Schistosome eggs induce IL-10, which diminishes interferon gamma-mediated macrophage activation. Filarial worms produce protease inhibitors, oncostatin. Filarial and tapeworms secrete prostaglandin PGE2 that alters antigen processing by APCs and T cell proliferation. Schistosome species produce a special protein, schistosome apoptosis factor, that induces apoptosis of CD4 plus T lymphocyte via the Fas-Fas-L interaction. There is a role of antigenic drift also. Change in antigenic sites or antigenic composition of the parasite allows emergence of new variants of the same parasite. This not only allows the parasite to escape host immune defense, but also gives it an opportunity to reinfect the same host. Thus, the parasite may persist within the same host for long duration, maintaining a chronic infection. Plasmodium, for example, displays stage-specific antigenic variation. By the time antibodies are synthesized against one antigenic form, they switch to a new form by switching the expression of variant genes which encode them. The new form has altogether new antigens completely unaffected by the existing antibody. This is probably one of the biggest reasons for not having a good anti-malarial vaccine so far. Trypanosomes also show great variation in surface VSG genes, because of which they are able to cause successive waves of parasitemia in the same host, as has been discussed earlier. Helminths also show a stage-specific change in their excretory secretory antigens, which delay the development of effective immune mechanisms. So students, we have discussed the totality of all the host-parasite interactions. I hope you are able to understand them well. Thank you.